people think that goes away in April with the heat.
Hello, welcome to Planet America. I'm John Barron.
And I'm Chaz Chidala.
This week, the president under fire for suggesting disinfectant injections might treat coronavirus.
And the results are coming in for some of his other favourite cures as well, and he will not be happy.
We will take you to one of the first states to reopen. Some say it is just too soon.
And Biden's flying high in the 2020 polls, but those sexual assault claims are not going away.
President Trump abandoned his daily White House coronavirus briefings this week following an outcry over these now infamous musings.
And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside?
The following day, he tried to brush aside criticism, saying he was being, quote, sarcastic.
Clarify your comments about injections of disinfectant. They're quite
No,
provocative.
I was asking a question sarcastically to reporters like you, just to see what would happen.
Ah, reporters fell for it because they're the stupid ones.
But I was asking a very sarcastic question to the reporters in the room about disinfectant on the inside.
Yeah, but then the president still seemed to want to defend his suggestion.
But it does kill it, and it would kill it on the hands, and that would make things much better. That was done in the form of a sarcastic question to the reporters.
Over on Fox News, they tried to laugh it all off, although even they weren't going with the sarcasm defense.
I don't think he was being sarcastic. It looked like he was just spitballing ideas to knock this thing out.
Okay, he was spitballing about injecting poison, as you do, but over on MSNBC's Morning Joe, they were taking it a bit more seriously.
I guess if you could collapse the past 3.5 years of madness into one clip.
That would be it.
Some other people seem to have taken the president spitballing pretty seriously too. Health officials in New York said there was an increase in the number of people poisoning themselves with disinfectant compared to this time last year. Manufacturers issued urgent warnings for people not to consume their disinfectant products, and the Republican governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, called on the president to try to be more careful about what he says.
I think when misinformation comes out, or you just say something that pops in your head, it does send a wrong message. And we had hundreds of calls come into our emergency hotline at our health department asking if it was right to ingest Clorox or alcohol cleaning products, whether that was going to help them fight the virus.
To which the answer obviously is no. But stung by all that criticism over the weekend, the president abruptly cancelled his briefings, announcing on Twitter,
"What is the purpose of having White House news conferences when the lamestream media asks nothing but hostile questions and then refuses to report the truth or facts accurately? They get record ratings and the American people get nothing but fake news. Not worth the time and effort."
So then yesterday, instead of an indoor coronavirus briefing, the president called a press conference on the economy outside in the Rose Garden. It was more scripted, more disciplined, shorter answers, no abuse of reporters, but when the inevitable questions came, he denied responsibility for any possible poisonings.
Governor Larry Hogan specifically said they've seen a spike in people using disinfectant after your comments last week. I know you said they were sarcastic.
I can't imagine why. I can't imagine why.
Well, that shows a certain lack of imagination, I'd say, Chaz.
It certainly does. Then again, I can also imagine that there would be more poisonings from disinfectants and cleaners in the middle of a pandemic where people are using heaps of disinfectants and cleaners. Just look at the poisonings with disinfectants over the first quarter of the last 3 years. See that big spike in March this year when the pandemic started. And these are the poisonings by cleaners over the same period, once again, with a big spike during the pandemic this year. We'll have to wait a few weeks to see what the poisoning numbers did after Trump's press conference compared to the rest of the pandemic. Right now, we simply don't know if there were any victims. Well, actually, there were at least 2 victims. One, Trump's science guy, Bill Bryan, who has now been blamed by some of Trump's cronies for not briefing Trump well enough and allowing Trump to get confused. And the other victim was Piers Morgan, of all people, who felt compelled to start his most recent column with, "Shut the f*** up, President Trump." And then Trump went and unfollowed him on Twitter. Poor old Piers. In all seriousness, even though Trump was just calling for an investigation of his brain fart, not telling people to follow it, he really does need to watch himself. Because while only 23% of Americans trust his coronavirus information and only 7% of Democrats trust it, 47% of Republicans trust his information. I mean, you can see for yourself what happened to chloroquine prescriptions after Trump recommended it. There's the Trump bump there. And that recommendation has not worked out too well so far. Amongst 368 veterans with COVID, 28% of those who were given hydroxychloroquine died. 22% of those given hydroxychloroquine and Z-Pak died, whereas only 11% of those who were given neither medicine died. Now, that's not proof in itself. But then New York revealed what happened to its first 600 chloroquine-taking COVID patients, and they said that they didn't find a statistically significant difference between the patients who took the drugs and those who didn't. But the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases could sure tell about potential toxicities, and that's why they recommended doctors not use hydroxychloroquine and Z-Pak. And now the FDA's even said that chloroquine has not been shown to be safe or effective for treating or preventing COVID-19, and that risks serious heart rhythm problems. Admittedly, there are still trials going on. That's not the last word on the subject, but it is noteworthy that Trump's mentions of chloroquine in press conferences and on Twitter have dropped right off lately. And those of us looking for a miracle are now turning our attention elsewhere, John, to India, where a pharmaceutical company is planning to start production within the next 2 to 3 weeks of a potential COVID-19 vaccine that is currently being developed at Oxford Uni. They plan to pump out tens of millions of doses in the hope that the vaccine will pass human trials over the next 4 months, and then they'll get it on the market by October. Without any patent either, I might add, so that should keep it cheap. That hype train should be leaving the station any day now, John.
And I think Trump has about 29 million doses of chloroquine that he might be looking to offload rather cheap. Now, something else was very clear from the Trump press conference this week. The president is sharpening his attacks on China, who he blames for not stopping the virus.
It could have been stopped, and it could have been stopped short, but somebody a long time ago, it seems, decided not to do it that way. And the whole world is suffering because of it. 184 countries at least.
Let's leave the arguments there. Let's go some facts, eh?
Good plan.
Good news is that the new daily cases seems to be starting to edge down. And so do daily COVID deaths. That could be a slow and uneven descent, though, I might add. Look at that big bump in deaths today. Nevertheless, the IHME model that the White House uses still projects that the death toll for this wave will level off next week and top out about 74,000. It's currently standing at 59,000. Just to put that in context, because we can get blasé about these numbers, when people say that 34,000 people died of the flu last year, that's a scientific estimate. But in terms of recorded flu deaths in real time, like we're recording these 59,000 COVID deaths, there were actually only 7,000 recorded flu deaths in that whole year. So that gives you some idea of how damaging this thing has been.
Well, meanwhile, a number of US states this week have moved to phase 1 of the White House plan to reopen America. But there are concerns that some of these states, such as Georgia, are jumping the gun, not waiting until there is a sustained decline in new cases and risking an immediate second wave of infections. Citizens of Georgia can now get their hair and nails done, go to restaurants, even bowling alleys and cinemas. For some, it is a welcome sign that things are starting to return to normal, but not everybody is happy. Don Zeller-James is the president of Atlanta's NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Coloured Persons, and a Democratic Party state senator. Senator James, welcome to Planet America.
Thank you. Good to be here.
The reopening there this week, what impact is it having on the main streets and the malls of Georgia? Are people going out to shop, or are they still staying at home?
It was elective for businesses to open and not mandatory. However, too many businesses did open. I saw long lines out at a manicure shop just a few blocks from my house, and I was going out to try to help feed the hungry, and I was all covered and geared up, and I couldn't believe that the people were waiting just to get their nails done. And the hair shops are, all of the beauticians and hairstylists and barbers are saying that they're booked up for weeks now. They have appointments, and people are having to wait 2 and 3 weeks. They have so many who are just ignoring the fact that this is the best way, I guess, to catch something like that.
The African American community has been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 across the United States, and there in Georgia as well. Can you explain to us some of the reasons for that?
Well, we didn't get offered the test as much, so we were continuing to, I guess, expose ourselves to persons who had it in our community. I don't really, I look at the statistics and I think it's affecting everyone. But the Black community is hard hit. And they are so many young people who have not been in these statistics before are being added who are African Americans. So that alarms many of us as well.
Now, we heard last week about how much more safely businesses were going to get run. There'd be more social distancing, etc. Well, now that they're open, how much more safely are they actually being run?
Well, I went to a takeout restaurant just yesterday, and I was covered, and they did have a little tape on the floor to say you have to stand this far away. But in order to get to the tape, you had to be within 1 foot of someone to get down the aisle to get to the back of the line. So I don't think that people are taking this seriously. People are dying from this disease. They have not found a cure. I am afraid that it is not working as well as staying home.
I know Georgia is the only state in the country where employers need to lodge unemployment benefits requests for their employees. So how many employers would you say have screwed over their workers?
Too many, because when people applied for unemployment, they found out that their employer had not even paid into the system. And so they were not getting unemployment insurance, was not paid. So it's very tough. Employees' rights are really in jeopardy here because nobody monitored what was going on. You can say you must put all of your employees down, but we're finding out from the Department of Labor here in Georgia that that didn't happen all the time. And it's too many people who now find themselves without being able to go to work, have no money, and perhaps they were the ones who were cheering the governor on when they said we could go back to work. But then we said, you better social distance and stay at home. Do you want to be 6 feet apart, or do you want to be 6 feet under?
Senator Donzella James, thank you very much indeed for your time, and stay well.
Thank you very much for inviting me here today. And let's stop and stay put and stay healthy.
Tired of your state locking you down? Want to throw caution to the COVID-infested wind? Well, come on down to Vegas.
We've never closed down Las Vegas because that's our job, an entertainment capital of the world where everything's clean.
Mayor Carolyn Goodman wants Vegas back open. Social distancing be damned.
But hasn't it been because of social distancing that the numbers have been what they are?
How do you know until we have a control group? We offer to be a control group.
That's right. Come be a part of Mayor Goodman's control group and experience the thrill of literally gambling with your life.
We would love to be that placebo side so you have something to measure against.
The group who gets the placebo, by the way, usually gets the short end of the stick.
Well, you don't know.
And don't worry about bringing the disease back to your hometowns. What's caught in Vegas stays in Vegas. Still not convinced?
Doesn't that sound like a virus petri dish? I mean, how is that
know
safe?
what it sounds like? You're being an alarmist.
So come on down, and please remember, tip your servers generously.
It's the people who are, working on the floor who are the ones who are going to become infected and potentially die.
No, you're talking disease. I'm talking life. I'm talking life and living. These are people who have had
makes no sense.
It's not just Las Vegas and Georgia looking to get back in action. With 26 million people requesting unemployment benefits in the last 4 weeks, that is more than all the job gains since the GFC. Gone up in smoke. If we look at the most affected states, I guess this is why Georgia's keen to get moving again. 23.8% of their workforce has lost a job in the last month. Look at Michigan and Pennsylvania, two of the most important states in this year's election. That could explain some of Trump's urgency to get the country open again. But another state that's been criticised for opening up a little too early has been Florida. They've reopened their parks and beaches, albeit with some restrictions. They're only open for some hours of the day, with no sunbathing, no picnicking, no beach towels or chairs, and with proper social distancing. But that is more than enough of an excuse for some
Fake news.
There is nothing news outlets like more than getting all self-righteous about pictures like this. There's even a hashtag for this story, hashtag Florida morons. I'm sure you're all familiar with this kind of thing. Stick a telephoto lens at ground level, make everyone seem really close together and get yourself some online buzz. It happens in California, it happens in Australia, and it happened in Florida until Channel 4 Jacksonville took this footage at the same time as they had a drone recording the same area from the sky. There are the two pictures side by side of the one patch of beach. A Danish news outlet made the same point. Now you're close together, now you're not. And there are the two pictures together. Look, it's so easy. Camera 4. Hey, John. Oh, now you got corona.
Hashtag Planet America moron. I'm tweeting about you.
So don't fall for it. And please stop being so angry online.
For the past week, there have been a number of unconfirmed reports that North Korean leader Kim Jong-Un is seriously ill following cardiac surgery.
Where is North Korean leader Kim Jong-Un? Rumours and speculation about his health spreading.
And it's fairly easy to see how these rumours and speculation start to spread.
The North Korean dictator Kim Jong-Un has died.
But according to the government of South Korea, those reports of Kim's death are somewhat exaggerated.
Seoul says Kim Jong-un is, quote, alive and well and has been staying in the resort town of Wonsan for some 2 weeks now.
So maybe he's just recuperating, a bit of self-isolating, homeschooling his 3 kids, shooting his uncle, or perhaps he has coronavirus, as some reports suggest. President Trump was asked what he knew.
I can't tell you exactly. Yes, I do have a very good idea, but I can't talk about it now.
Intriguing. Then a reporter tried to ask the president about this comment from Republican Senator Lindsey Graham on the weekend.
I pretty well believe he is dead or incapacitated.
But when the president misheard the question, thinking the reporter was asking about a comment attributed to Kim, not Graham, his answer was very interesting indeed.
But last Saturday, Senator Graham, he mentioned in the Fox News interview, he said...
he didn't say anything last Saturday.
Kim Jong-un...
Nobody knows where he is, so he obviously couldn't have said it. If you have this is breaking news.
Yes.
That Kim Jong-un made a statement on Saturday, I don't think so.
And that is no way to stop a rumour.
From the people who brought you the Coronavirus Classic Cinema Collection comes another treasure from the era of COVID-19, presenting the Coronavirus Press Conference Collection. All the President's briefings for the past 3 weeks, featuring 13 incredible hours of Trump's COVID insights.
I believe there were no deaths, 0 deaths at the time I closed up the country. Nobody was there. And you should say thank you very much for good judgment.
This includes 2 hours of the president attacking his enemies.
So the story in the New York Times was a total fake. It's a fake newspaper, and they write fake stories.
45 minutes of self-praise.
You know I was #1 on Facebook, and I just found out I'm #1 on Facebook. I thought that was very nice.
And 4.5 minutes of condolences for coronavirus victims.
We continue to mourn with thousands of families across the country whose loved ones have been stolen from us by the invisible enemy.
Order now and receive this bonus disc of various officials and experts waiting around on stage for Trump to show up. The pandemic may not last forever, but you can always cherish these press conferences, which Trump himself declared not worth the time and effort. Order now while stocks and humanity last.
There was some more grim polling news for President Trump this week, with former Vice President Joe Biden opening up a double-digit lead in a nationwide head-to-head poll from 1,000 registered voters from Suffolk University for USA Today. Biden leads Trump by 10 points, 50-40. That's down 4 for Trump since December, up 9 for Joe Biden. President Trump still has 90% support amongst self-identified Republicans, but his support with independents has collapsed, down 18 points since December to just 27%. He still leads Biden by 11 points amongst male voters, but Biden has almost twice the support among female voters. A few weeks ago, former presidential candidate Howard Dean told us that one of the most important polling questions to watch for is whether voters think a candidate cares about people like them. We'll take a look. On that front, President Trump, big trouble. 39%. Compared to 57% for Joe Biden, Chaz.
Wow. I've got another big number for you as well, John. It involves what the 2016 Trump campaign called double haters. Intriguing. They were the 18% of voters who hated both Hillary and Trump. I'm surprised it was only 18%. And they voted 47-30 for Trump in the election. It got him over the line. But in the latest NBC poll, the voters who dislike both Biden and Trump are backing Biden, 60-10. So that could be a stat to watch as well. Now, you might be wondering, why is Biden doing so well in the polls? He's been doing absolutely nothing. Well, that might be the point. In 2016, Trump had about 65% of the media mentions between Hillary and him. But that was not a good thing. Trump's poll numbers were negatively correlated with how much news he received. The more news coverage he got, the worse his poll numbers. Well, right now, Trump's getting 90% of the coverage between Biden and him. So maybe Biden should disappear for as long as he can, especially while people are trying to talk to him about Tara Reade. You might recall Tara Reade was an ex-staffer of Biden's from the early 90s who last year accused Biden of sexual harassment. But only days after she did so, she hinted on a Medium post that she did not even tell the whole story, and only a small portion had come out of what Joe Biden allegedly did to her. Then about a month ago, she alleged that not only had she made a sexual harassment complaint against Biden in 1993, but Biden then sexually assaulted her, and his staff then froze her out. Reade said that after it happened, she told her brother, her friend, and her mum. Her brother and friend have backed up her story somewhat. Her mother is now dead. However, Reade did say that her mother had once called Larry King live on CNN about the issue. Her mother at the time lived in San Luis Obispo County, which is why this video that just emerged is so interesting.
San Luis Obispo, California. Hello.
Yes, hello. I'm wondering what a staffer would do besides go to the press in Washington. My daughter has just left there after working for a prominent senator and could not get through with her problems at all. And the only thing she could have done was go to the press, and she chose not to do it out of respect for him.
Or she had a story to tell, but out of respect for the person she worked for, she didn't tell it.
That's true.
And that call was from the month that Tara Reade left Biden's office. Now that proves nothing. But given that Biden's team completely denies everything about Reade's allegations, the assault, the harassment, the complaint, everything except that she worked for him, it's interesting that this woman who Reade claims is her mother seems to believe that her daughter had an issue with her senator boss, the kind of issue that Biden's team has flat out denied. But wait! Because then yesterday, Reade's neighbour from the mid-90s, Linda Lacasse, came forward without even being mentioned by Reade. And she said that Reade had told her in 1995 or 1996 that she had been sexually assaulted by Joe Biden. She said Reade had told her that Biden put her up against a wall, put his hand up her skirt and put his fingers inside her. Reade told her that she'd felt like she was assaulted. So Lacasse said she was told the whole story in the 1990s. Furthermore, Lacasse says she's a Democrat who is supporting Joe Biden. Another woman also came forward yesterday, a work colleague from the 90s who said Reid had told her about the alleged sexual harassment complaint. So this is getting awkward for the Democrats now and the major media outlets who are largely ignoring Reid. Reid yesterday called for Biden to release his Senate staff personnel records, which she believes would contain her sexual harassment complaint form, the one that Biden's team denies the existence of. The records are at the University of Delaware, which says that those records will remain closed to the public until 2 years after Biden retires. We'll be seeing about that one, John.
Indeed we will. And on Friday night's Fireside Chat, we'll ask former Democratic Senator Heidi Heitkamp, a Biden supporter, what she makes of these Tara Reid allegations. But whether or not there is any more evidence to support these claims beyond Tara Reid having told a number of people about it over the years, there is no doubt the issue is already being weaponised politically. Take a look. President Trump retweeted this digitally manipulated image of Joe Biden this week, and bizarrely, he didn't even seem to care that the tweet came from an account called Trump and Biden Are Rapey. And if this has raised any issues for you, you can call Lifeline or 1-800-RESPECT. During what was to become the final Democratic candidate debate back in mid-March, Joe Biden grabbed headlines with this bit of news.
If I'm elected president, my cabinet, my administration will look like the country. And I commit that I will, in fact, I'll pick a woman to be vice president.
We don't yet know who Joe Biden's going to pick, but history says, whoever it is, they're in for a tough ride. No woman has ever been president or vice president of the United States, and only 2 women have ever been nominated for the vice presidency by either of the major political parties. The first was Democratic Congresswoman Geraldine Ferraro, who was tapped to run alongside Walter Mondale in 1984.
I nominate Geraldine A. Ferraro of New York to be the next vice president of the United States of America.
Like Joe Biden, Fritz Mondale was a former VP, seen as a safe but uninspiring nominee who'd seen off more exciting rivals like progressive Jesse Jackson, the Kennedy-esque Gary Hart and astronaut-turned-Senator John Glenn. Jerry Ferraro, a former criminal prosecutor from Queens, New York, was a surprise choice, plucked from obscurity. Some wondered if she was ready for the big time. She certainly didn't have much foreign policy experience and faced debate questions like this.
Do you think in any way that the Soviets might be tempted to try to take advantage of you simply because you are a woman?
But Ferraro was tough and smacked down George Bush for mansplaining foreign affairs.
Iran, we were held by a foreign government. In Lebanon, you had a wanton terrorist action where the government opposed it.
Let me just say, first of all, that I almost resent Vice President Bush, your patronizing attitude that you have to teach me about foreign policy.
Ferraro had more to overcome than sexism. She was also the first Italian-American to run on a presidential ticket, at a time when many Americans immediately thought of the mafia. She later said that may have been a bigger issue, and her husband's business dealings came under close scrutiny, forcing her to release his tax returns. Mid-year polls showed Ferraro boosting Mondale, particularly among female voters. But by election day, women, like every state except Minnesota, went for a second Reagan term. It was almost a quarter of a century before a woman was chosen to run for vice president again.
Governor Sarah Palin of the great state of Alaska.
A very surprising choice, as she has little exposure on the national level. Governor Palin is 44 years old. By contrast, Senator McCain turned 72 today.
A star was born. At first, Sarah Palin seemed to be a political game changer, a powerful advocate for John McCain.
There is only one candidate who has truly fought for America, and that man is John McCain.
But under scrutiny from the media, cracks soon started to appear. She defended her foreign policy credentials as the governor of a state with international borders.
It's funny that a comment like that was kind of made to, I don't know, reporters.
Mocked.
Yeah, mocked, I guess that's the word, yeah.
And mocked she was.
It seems to me that when cornered, you become increasingly adorable. Is that fair to say?
I don't know, is it?
And I can see Russia from my house.
Selecting Sarah Palin undercut McCain's own argument that Barack Obama lacked experience. Still, she excited the Conservative base and provided a populist anti-establishment template for others like Donald Trump to follow.
I like being able to answer these tough questions without the filter even of the mainstream media kind of telling viewers what they've just heard. I'd rather be able to just speak to the American people like we just did.
Unlike Mondale in 1984 and McCain in 2008, though, Joe Biden heads into this campaign as the frontrunner. Picking a female running mate is more a strategic and symbolic choice than a Hail Mary, but whoever he chooses will be trying to make history and could well go on to be America's first female president, so the scrutiny will be intense.
I'm not giving a press conference in the airport, okay?
And with that, we are right out of time for another week, but we will be back for another trip to Planet America next Wednesday night.
As always, we will have a fireside chat on Friday on ABC News, and you'll also find more on iView, Facebook and YouTube.
Good night.